Welcome to the Kent Lapp Podcast.
What do you what's your take on all of the turmoil going on in the country right now? Some people don't understand the racial turmoil. A lot of people do. Um, it's just a weird year. Of course, we have COVID going on and the presidential debacle. Um, what's your what's your take on, particularly as it relates to the racial turmoil and cops, maybe?
So it all depends on how you look at it, right? So from my standpoint, I know there's a lot of conversations on it now, and it's getting a lot of press now, but this has been going on. So it's not and the people that in my circles, we've been fighting this, and we've been working in the community. This isn't. So it's like one of those things, like somebody, and not to lighten it, but it's like when somebody comes into you and they say, "Oh my gosh, have you heard this new song?"
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, "Man, I've been heard that."
Mm,
You know what I mean? I heard it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of people are late to the party.
Sure.
And they want to have a lot of conversations, right? They want to talk about it.
Yep.
But my challenge is to do something about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I give limited conversation, but we can talk about whatever you want to while we go out and do something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You see what I mean?
Yep,
like,
I do.
But I'm not going to let people talk me to death about it so they can feel better that saying that they had a conversation when there's people that are displaced right now. There's folks in our community that we could be helping right now.
Yes. Do you think the big issue, and it's a complicated situation, but do you think the big issue is minority people not being treated like white people, say, on a day-to-day basis? Or do you think it's the cops, or do you think it's the laws? Or, I mean, I tend to think it's sort of all of the above, but if you kind of would pull one out, where would you focus on first?
Yeah, there is because depending on where you are, depends on what's going to be most important to you.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? So, excuse me, if your family member was just gunned down by a police officer or by anybody,
mm-hmm.
that's where your focus is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but if you were passed over for a promotion,
mm-hmm.
you see what I mean? Then that's where your focus is going to be. So dissecting it to say that, there's no one thing that we can focus on all at the same time. It's all going to be relative to you, what's most important. So you should and the people will make strives in whatever is important to them. And I think that's right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because that's actionable.
Exactly.
Pick an area that's important to you. One of the areas that I'm particularly interested in is in our criminal justice system. I read a book recently called The New Jim Crow. Have you ever heard of it?
Oh, yeah.
It's really eye-opening. And I'm reading a book right now called, Alex Karkatanis. What's it called? It's called...
That's a name.
It's called Cruel and Unusual Punishment, I think. And it's talking about a lot of the same things the New Jim Crow talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have an issue with some cops. I think that's undeniable.
Right.
Because we have an issue with people, and cops are people.
Yep.
But there should be a higher expectation at that level. One of the areas that I'm not hearing talked about a lot is the people that make the rules, the people that oversee the cops, the people that make the policies in this country, and all those things. I think there's a lot of responsibility at that level that you're not hearing a lot about, and they don't want you to hear about it because they are put in those positions of power by people and their votes and so forth. And if it becomes clear that they're the people that have a lot of responsibility, that's not going to be good for them.
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of room for improvement at that level.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. There's a lot of room for improvement at all the levels. The police thing, my theory on that, some people like it, some people don't, but it's just how I feel. You can't come into my house and tell me what to do with my family. All right? You can't. I mean, you make some suggestions or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's my house, it's my family. This is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But the police officers, there's a lot of good ones, man. I mean, I got some great friends that are officers, and they kind of asked me. I mean, when all this stuff popped off, like one of my boys is a cop. He's a white guy, and he called me. He's like, "Man, how are your sons taking this stuff?" And he was like, if you want me to, I'll come over and talk to him. And I thought that meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
What I told him, I said, though, he said, tell him like this would have never happened if I was there, if I was around, like it wouldn't. And that sparked like my belief that the police got to police the police.
Yeah.
That's your house.
Yeah.
So before it even gets to me having to have a conversation with you or something, you need to have a conversation. If you see somebody doing something, stop them.
Yes.
You see what I mean? Like,
yes.
If anybody during George Floyd would have yanked him off.
Yeah. Any of the 6 or 7 guys standing there.
Anybody.
Trained.
Untrained, whatever. If you, first day on the job, whatever the case may be, then that's an issue between them.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And that man goes home. Or, he might go to jail, but he lives.
Yep.
So they have to start, it has to become important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stand there while somebody's beating somebody's head in.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And then we're talking about the defensive part. No, police yourself.
I agree with that. And the George Floyd thing, I mean, it's so awful. But the one thing that I think a lot about, honestly, just as much as Floyd, is Ahmaud Arbery. The idea that 2 guys get in a pickup truck with guns
and hunt somebody down.
And hunt someone down is awful. Mm-hmm. And some states apparently have these laws where you have, what's it called? Civil arrest or something. What's the term? Citizen's arrest.
Yeah.
You know how many states have that? I don't know. Does Tennessee have that? I don't know. Did Georgia have that? Yes, it did. I know now. But does your average person know whether you're living in a state that has a citizen's arrest or not? No, they have no idea.
Right.
So the fact that a couple of guys would do something like that, and apparently incorrectly, that to me seems difficult to remove racial bias from that equation. If that was a white guy jogging down the street, do I think the same thing would happen? No, I don't.
Of course not.
Yeah. So there's. Of
course not. But you don't have anything to compare it to because that's not. You see what I mean? Like,
right.
So that's one of the biggest things is that it's like, okay, we can talk about, well, if it was on the other foot but has it? We never get to see the other. Right. There is no other foot.
Yeah.
There's no other side of that coin.
Yep. I mean, one of my dear pastors is black, and he pays attention to what time he jogs, where he jogs, whether he wears a hoodie when he jogs. This is a pastor. Like, so we can't stop trying to fix this until my pastor feels comfortable jogging anywhere he wants, just like if I were to jog anywhere that I want.
Of course. I mean, my neighborhood is a really nice, cool neighborhood, but I'm strapped now. You know what I mean? Because I got to make it home.
Yeah, you should be.
You see what I mean? And that's not something that before this unrest needed to be that. But now that you don't know what a person is thinking.
Yep.
I love hoodies. They're warm. They're my favorite. One of my favorite things to wear. I don't ever want that to be the reason I don't come home.
Exactly. Yeah.